Hello, and thank you for exploring Lakehead International's videos. My name is Jordan, and I am the International New and Social Media Officer. I'm also the host of the Lakehead International Live series, a fun and informative way for you to connect with current international students, professors, and ask questions about admissions and everything Lakehead. You are about to watch a recording from one of our previous live sessions. If any questions arise throughout the video, please do not hesitate to comment below. If you would like to check out some of our upcoming live sessions, please head over to our website at lakeheadu.ca/international-live. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another Lakehead International Live. My name is Jordan. I'll be your host today. Of course, we're joined by a few special guests and I'll introduce them in just a moment, but I want to thank our audience for joining us once again. Whether it's your morning, your afternoon, your evening, we appreciate your time and we hope you brought plenty of questions for us or maybe a pen and paper to write down some of our important discussions today. We'll be recording our session, so don't worry if you don't have that pen and paper or you just don't feel like writing this stuff down. We definitely have this on demand after the fact. Once again, welcome to the Paying Your Fees, your tuition and fees session. My name is Jordan Ball. I'm the International New and Social Media Officer. I help run our live events, our digital experiences, our social media channels, as well as our Global Ambassador program. Pass it over to Hector to introduce himself, then we'll introduce Chris.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. My name is Hector Michelena, and I'm one of the international recruitment officers here at Lakehead. My main role is to help prospective students like you or new students through our applications and admissions process and just guide you to the right resources here on campus. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have today about that.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Hector. Next, I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thanks, Jordan. Hey, everyone. My name is Chris Gallinger. I'm the International Accounts Officer here at Lakehead. I work out of the finance office, and my job is to help students with things like your international payments that you send, refunds, understanding the billing on your student account. I'm also the administrator for the international health insurance plans.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. I'm really excited about today's session. I know today we are going to be focusing on sort of welcoming and transitioning those students that are joining us this January or winter 2022. So just a few months away here for their start date here. Of course, if we have viewers that are joining us later on in the spring or maybe even next fall, maybe you haven't even applied yet, but you're considering Lakehead, you are more than welcome to stay tuned and join and participate in today's session, ask your question. With that being said, first and foremost, I'll chat about what we're going to cover. We're going to chat about academic expenses, living expenses, when and how to pay those expenses, whether that's through scholarship, how they'll appear on your accounts, as well as UHIP, the University Health Insurance Plan, and things to consider. At the very end, we will have a dedicated live question and answer period. However, I want to note that throughout today's webinar, if you are submitting your questions using the Q&A, Hector, myself, and Chris will all be answering behind the scenes, as well as, of course, managing the webinar and information itself. Upcoming events within the transition series. So once again, for those students that are joining us this winter or January 2022, these events are catered or tailored to you so that we can help you prepare for your journey to Canada and more importantly, Lakehead. Next week, we'll have a session about our hometowns on Wednesday, November 24th. So you'll learn about Thunder Bay, Orillia, and potentially Barrie as well. And then following that, we'll have a winter 2022 pre-arrival planning session, and then we'll have an international advisors and support session. So both of those are going to be really great fun. You can head over to lakeheadu.ca/international-live to pre-register for those events now. In the Lakehead Explored session, tomorrow we're going to be doing a Finding Your Program session. So of course, for those students that have already applied and potentially joining us in a few short months here, this one won't be applicable for you, but for those students who may still be considering what programs are the best route, what career paths are there, all that sort of stuff, I encourage you to join that. If you're still looking at Lakehead as a university in general, and whether or not it's the right fit for you, join us for the Getting to Know Lakehead, where we'll explore everything in Lakehead, whether it's academics, student life, on-campus residence, meal plans, all that sort of stuff. We really dive into that. Although it's a lot to cover in one session, I think that we do a good job in going into enough depth for you to get a better understanding. And if you haven't yet applied and you're looking for guidance on that, you can join us for our admissions and application session on Thursday, December 9th. Again, you can register at lakeheadu.ca/international-live. In our Academics Explored series, this is our last series. I'll wrap it up here. We have our teachers education session next week. And then following that, we have science and environmental studies and plenty more on the schedule and roster for December. However, if you are looking to learn more about one of our faculties here at Lakehead University, we do have all of these sessions already pre-recorded and on demand on our Lakehead International YouTube. So if you head over to YouTube, simply search Lakehead International. Once you're on our channel, you can navigate to the Lakehead International Live playlist. And once you're there, you'll see all of our on-demand sessions, both in Academics Explored, but also our transition series, our Lakehead Explored. We put all of our recordings, or we do our best to get all of our recordings on there. So things to remember, housekeeping notes, these are the final things, and then we'll dive into today's session. If you like what you see, don't worry, we are recording today's session and we will be sending out the link afterwards. If you get our weekly Evite emails, you will get the link at the very bottom of that email. If you don't get our emails and you would like to, you can certainly reach out to me by replying to the registration form or simply sending us an email at welcome@lakeheadu.ca. If you have any questions, like I mentioned, whether they're related to paying your tuition and fees or your student accounts or just a general Lakehead University question, feel free to use the Q&A function built into Zoom to submit those, and we'll be happy to answer them both behind the scenes as well as live. With that being said, we want to remind you to stay connected and follow us on our social media channels. You can find us at Lakehead International on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, as well as WeChat and Yoku. And on that note, I'll dive into today's presentation. We're going to start things off with chatting about budgeting for university. And in order to prepare for budgeting to university, it's good to know what is the fee structure. And so first, we're going to be looking at academic expenses. So these rates are actually for the fall 2021 as well as 2022 academic calendar year, so the year that we're currently in. So for those students that are maybe potentially planning on joining us next fall in 2022, these rates are a good reference for you, but they are not definitive of what they will be at that time. With that being said, so for our undergraduate students, we have two different columns, undergrad and grad. Undergraduate students is broken down for one academic year, which is 2 semesters or 8 months. For our graduate students, one academic year is the equivalent of 3 semesters or 12 months. And so I just want to note that as we go through these fees. So for our tuition on the undergrad side, you're looking at between $26,000 and $34,000 Canadian. Your ancillary fees are between $1,200 and $1,500. And then our books is a simple estimate. So this depends on, of course, what books are required in the courses you decide to register for, but also whether you buy brand new books, whether you buy used books, whether those books are hard copy or soft copy or online and digital. There's a lot of different factors that will play into the eventual cost of those books. I certainly encourage you as a graduate of Lakehead University in the business program just a few years ago, when you actually register for courses and you make contact with your professor for the first time, I highly encourage you to connect with them and chat with them about the books that are required in their courses. They'll be able to determine whether or not you can use maybe last year's edition of the book, or if you have a copy already, whether or not that copy will be applicable. In most cases, I'll say this, in most cases, you probably can get away with using the last edition. However, in some cases, you will need to buy a brand new book because the case studies and the overall structure of the book may be entirely brand new. And so that will be important to your professors, of course. On the graduate side, you're looking at between 23 and 31,000 Canadian, unless you're in an MBA, which is 40 to 48. Your ancillary fees are 790. And your books, again, range between 1,000 and 2,000. At the bottom here of your screen, you do have your total academic expenses. Before we move on from this slide, I'm going to see if I can put Chris on the spot, and maybe he can do a quick overview of what ancillary fees are for students that aren't aware of what they are.
Yeah, for sure. So tuition is basically what it sounds like. It is like literally the amount of your payment that goes toward the tuition. Ancillary fees are other fees that are still considered compulsory. They're still part of your overall payments, but they're not tuition related. So think of things like there's a fee that goes toward the computer lab. There's one that allows you to access the gym. There's one that allows you to access the other athletics facilities. There's a fee on there that allows you to access the on-campus health clinic where you can see an actual doctor on campus. There's other fees that go towards your student union and for capital to pay for the upkeep of the various centers that are in the university.
Awesome. Yeah. And something to note there also is these fees they vary based on which program you're in on the undergraduate side. So some programs actually do have activity fees built into there or lab fees built into there based on sort of what experiential learning opportunities you may be involved in. If you have questions about those fees, whether they're related to your program or whether they're related to maybe one of the ancillary supports or services offered here on campus, we encourage you to certainly reach out and ask us, and we'd be happy to provide more information. If of course it's related directly to your program, we'd be happy to connect you with your program chair so they can sort of break that down for you.
And so there is actually sorry, Jordan, there's a miscellaneous fees link on our website that'll give you, it lists by course. So if you're wondering if there's an additional lab fee attached to a course, you can actually search and you'll be able to see all the fees for all the different courses in your program. So
awesome, good to know. So next we're going to chat about the living expenses. So of course, when you join Lakehead University, you're making a major journey across the world in many cases. And so when you join us here in Thunder Bay or potentially Aurelia, or in some cases Barrie, you will of course have living expenses, and that's related to your housing, your university health insurance plan, your food, your personal expenses. So again, I want to be clear about the undergraduate and graduate and the difference between the two. On the graduate side, we are looking at the 3 semesters of the 12 months. And so the fees look like they might be slightly higher. That's typically simply because you are going to be looking at paying for those 4 extra months. On the undergraduate side, you're looking at 2 semesters or 8 months. And so first off, housing. We have on-campus housing options for all of our students. If you're on the undergraduate side, you could be looking at one of 3 options: dorm style or townhouses and apartments. Typically, we see high school graduates, so students that are in grade 12 and joining us for the very first time, go into the dorm style. This is included with meal plans, a little extra support services, extracurricular activities and events that really cater to your experience. If you're living in a townhouse and apartment, you aren't participating in a meal plan, a mandatory one, I should say. You can certainly opt into one and still have access to all of that, but you do have full access to kitchen amenities with that. On the graduate side, if you're living in Thunder Bay, you're going to be looking at a townhouse and apartment. If you are studying in Aurelia in one of the limited graduate programs over there, we do only offer dorm style in Aurelia. If you're also looking for off-campus housing, there are several options in Thunder Bay and Aurelia and our hometowns in general. However, Lakehead University does not facilitate off-campus housing. We leave it to each of our students to determine what housing option is best for them, what location is best for them, what are their price range, or what's their budget. And based on that, we can certainly give you recommendations or advice. However, we cannot advise or do any reviews of the legal contracts that you sign or help facilitate any of those down payments. Next, we have the UHIP. I'm going to pass over to Chris to briefly cover that, and then we'll actually dive back into it later on in today's slides.
Yeah, sure. So if you're an international student traveling to Canada, you're not covered under Canada's health insurance, like a citizen or a permanent resident would be. So you're required to have insurance to be here. So you are enrolled into UHIP. It stands for University Health Insurance Plan. It covers emergency services, basically. So if you need to see a doctor, if you're sick and you need to go to a walk-in clinic, see what's going on, that all of those things are covered under UHIP. We'll get into it more later, but just basically think emergency coverage, and it'll cover you for hospital visits, doctor's visits, things like that.
For sure. And I'm sure many of our viewers may know or recognize that Canada is well known for our universal healthcare and our high quality healthcare, with that being said. And so having access to that is critical as a student here at Lakehead University. And so this certainly ensures that access to it. When we get into food, of course, we have the range between $400 and $500 Canadian each month. That's a really healthy budget, to be completely honest. However, it depends on what you're looking to buy. So whether you're going to go out and get name brand food, you're going to spoil yourself, get some of the fancy fancy dinners, maybe you're going to eat out a bit, maybe you'll get takeout or takeaway, delivery, whatever it might be. That's why we have the range here. If you're looking for more realistic pricing, I encourage you to check out sort of our online websites, search grocery stores here in Canada and check out their online listings, and you can actually start to pre-plan a budget. This is a general idea though, in between $400 and $500 Canadian a month. And then for personal expenses, of course, we have the range for $1,500 for 8 months, or $2,250 for 12 months. With that being said, again, this is flexible. This speaks to maybe going for what could it be? It could be going to the barber, for example, or going to get your hair done. Maybe you're going to treat yourself and go get your nails done, whatever it might be. These are personal expenses. And also you could include in here entertainment expenses. So if you want to go to the movies, if you want to go bowling, whatever it might be, these are personal expenses. So again, this can range. This does not have to be as high as it is, or it can certainly be more if you're looking to do something every single day that you're here in Canada. And we hope that you're looking to get active and get involved with us. So we do have a range for your total living expenses. And then, of course, those are combined with your academic expenses for the total cost of your education here in Canada. Just to clarify, if you're looking for a breakdown of any of these expenses directly related to your program also, if you head over to lakeheadu.ca/tours, you can certainly do that, and you can see that breakdown. With that being said, next we're going to chat about paying your fees. So this is specific for our students joining this winter in January 2022. I'm going to pass over to Chris to sort of walk us through this.
Thanks, Jordan. So if you're starting in the winter term or in January, the payment due date is December 15th. So up until now, we've been talking about the fees in terms of the full year. So if you're an undergrad, that's from September to April, that's the full academic year. And if you're a grad student, that's from September to August. You might be wondering, well, if I'm starting in January, how do I know how much I need to pay? So the easiest answer is the registration's open now. You can go online and you can pick your courses, you can register for them, and then you will be billed for the courses you've taken, usually the following business day. So if you were to register right now, you would see your fees billed tomorrow morning, probably around this time too. If you're starting in May, or you're a grad student and you're registering again in the spring summer, the due date is May 1st. Spring summer registration opens usually at the end of January. So at that point, you'll be able to register and you'll still be able to see your fees that you'll be owing. Just so you know, you can still make a payment, the full amount if you need to. A lot of students do this for visa reasons for their application. They're required to pay a full year's tuition. We don't require that. We only require you pay by the due date. But you can still pay your full year's tuition if you wanted to. You'll just have to use the fees on our website that are similar to what Jordan showed you earlier.
Awesome. And I'll speak a little more directly to that. So students that are joining us and using the SDS immigration stream, so that's where your visa application is a little more streamlined, and hopefully that approval process is less time consuming. You are required to pay a full year's of tuition fees. And so those tuition fees can certainly be found on our website. If you need a little help navigating that, you can of course reach out directly to us and we're more than happy to help. Or if you've been working with one of our recruitment advisors, similar to Hector, or any one of our team members based around the world, you can connect with them. And I am confident that they would be happy to help you or get you in contact with the right person here at Lakehead. Next, we're going to chat about graduate student fees. I know that it's essentially the exact same thing as the previous slide. And like Chris mentioned, once you actually submit that registration and then the registration is triggered within the finance office, that's actually when they're going to be able to bill you, and you can view the full cost of your education for that upcoming term in your student account. So we're going to get into that in just a moment here, where we're talking about how to access your student accounts and see that fee breakdown. But again, if you have any questions, I just want to be super clear in saying that we're more than happy to assist you and answer questions as this comes up for yourself. In terms of residence, so if you're living on campus at Lakehead University, whether it's in Orillia or Thunder Bay, your schedule of payments is similar to what we had just talked about. However, you also have your down payment or your deposit with your contract. And so that's flexible. So that actually is based on when are you making that application to residents, and then when are you paying that down payment? They do have flexible deadlines with the down payment for winter semester. If you're joining for the fall, for example, they do actually have a deadline. Of course, we're not going to chat about that yet. I think it's too premature to chat about residents' deadlines that are coming up in June. So if you are joining us this winter, just be aware that you'll have to pay that down payment with your contract, and then your full balance will be due December 15th, 2021. So that's coming up in less than a month here. If you're undecided on what your living accommodations are going to be, I encourage you to connect with one of our recruitment advisors to chat more about your situation particularly, and see if we can help you or help advise you on what the best route is. Next, I'll pass over to Chris to chat about how you can pay your fees.
Okay, so there are quite a few ways you can make your tuition payments. For students that are starting their first term, you're probably going to be paying online, probably from your home country because you haven't arrived yet. Most international students pay through Global Pay. It's Western Union. So if you go to the website, it'll say Western Union's Global Pay. Again, this is the best option if you're paying from an international bank account, like if you're paying from your home country's bank account. You could also pay with a credit card. If you have, I believe it's Visa, MasterCard from your home country, they are accepted on the Global Pay platform. It's quick, Global Pay. It's one of the quicker options. It takes about between 2 to 3 business days for us to receive your payment from the day you make it. So if time's a factor, I always suggest students pay through Western Union. Another option to pay by credit card is you can pay through, if you're on MyInfo, it takes you to our partner, which is TouchNet. So you can pay by Visa, MasterCard through MyInfo. It'll take you to TouchNet's homepage. There is a small service fee. I think it's 2.5%. But the good thing about paying via that method is it's instant. So if you need to get your payment in now, if there's like a deadline you need to meet, you can pay online through MyInfo with a credit card. It'll be on your student account right away. You'll be able to go on and see it. You'll get a confirmation sent to you. So those are the two basic ones that you would use if you were paying internationally. There is another option. You can pay by Canadian bank account through online banking. So we don't accept e-transfers from Canadian bank accounts, at least not yet. But you can pay through online banking. What you would do is, if you say you're with Scotiabank, you would go to the pay a bill section. You would search for Lakehead or with all the major Canadian banks and Ontario credit unions. And you would just select Lakehead as the payee, and your Lakehead student ID number would be the account number. We also do accept payments in person. We didn't for a while because of COVID, but we're back in the office now on campus, the Thunder Bay campus. So you can pay in person if you're paying by cash, if you have a debit card, an Interac debit card, or if you have a check or money order, you can bring them right to the accounts receivable office. That's where I am. And then we can put it on your student account. There's a few other ways you can make your payments. One of them is if you're a grad student and you have a graduate assistantship, or a GA, we call it. You can use your GA payments to pay your student account. You could also use any funding you have, like if you have a grant, if you have a bursary or an award through grad studies, or from your professor or your supervisor, you can use those to pay your tuition as well. To do it this way, you would need to receive a funding letter from the Graduate Studies Office, and you would need to complete an online form stating the amount that you're going to be using towards your tuition. Last on the list is sponsorship. So this is very specific. If you're a First Nation student, or if you're for international students, it would mean if you're being sponsored by your government, if the government's sending you to school at Lakehead as part of a program, or if you're coming from another institution, like another university, that'll be paying your tuition on your behalf. All we would need is a promissory note. And if you go to our website, I believe it stipulates what needs to be on the letter from your sponsor in order for us to invoice them.
Awesome.
So, sorry, Jordan.
No, I was just going to say, Thank you for that. I know that we covered all 8 of these, and then we do have a bit of a breakdown. I know that you've already discussed this. So one thing I wanted to know with the online banking and Canadian banks specifically, although you're most likely already in your own home country, pardon me, if you have a family member or a trusted friend, you can certainly have them pay the fees on your behalf. We do not facilitate that, of course, and it's similar to what Chris described when you go and add Lakehead University as the payee or the company, and then you're going to use your student number as the account number. To clarify, your student number is at the top right of your letter of acceptance. And so your letter of acceptance is typically 2 to 3, maybe even 4 pages long. At the very first page on the top right, you're going to see student ID and then a 9-digit or 8-digit number. It's the actual number, the length of it is not coming to me right now, but it's in the top right there for you. If you need confirmation, I'd be happy to help you with that, or any one of our international recruitment advisors would certainly be happy to help you as well. For some of those other options, like Chris mentioned, certainly Global Pay or through Western Union is certainly the most popular. And the great thing is you also get to pay in your home currency, and it's cost effective and timely. Like Chris mentioned, it happens for us within a few business days, we receive that payment, and then we apply it directly to your student account. If you are looking to pay through a credit card, you can use that TouchNet, who is one of Lakehead University's partner. Also to note though, like Chris mentioned, there is that small fee that is associated with using a credit card to pay those tuition fees.
One thing I'll say, another thing about Global Pay, another reason I think it's probably the best option if you're paying from an international account, is that we have administrative access to see your payment. So if you're nervous about sending money overseas, it's a lot of money. We can actually track your payment for you. I can see the moment you hit, or even just while you're getting a payment ready, I can see that you've initiated a payment. I can see when it's been submitted. I can see when it's processing. I can see when it's cleared your account. I can see when it's cleared Western Union's account. So if you do have any, if you're concerned or you've never, you're not used to sending, I had never sent an international payment before I started working here. And I can see why it would be daunting. And it's just that bit of extra security through Western Union, because we can see that you've made the payment. And if there's any issues, we have the support of Western Union as well, they have a whole dedicated team of student support work, like student support. They have a student support team to help you if you have questions too. So
perfect. Good to know. Good to know. So I know that we have already chatted about scholarships on a high level and using that to pay for your tuition. So for our undergraduate students, I'll pass it over to Chris to chat about how those scholarships, bursaries, and awards are actually applied when you first enter Lakehead University. You don't have to worry about, down the road in second year, third year, how when you maybe get a special award or bursary, how that's applied. We'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Yeah, so entrance scholarships, probably the most important thing to know is that they're not applied to your account until the term starts. So if you're starting in the winter term and you have a scholarship, you're not going to see it on your account, which we'll talk about how to see your account later on. But you're not going to see it until probably the first or even sometimes the second week of January. That doesn't mean that you don't have your scholarship. It just means that it hasn't been applied yet. There's some criteria that you have to satisfy before it's applied. You have to be fully registered. You have to be, there's certain things that have to happen. So yeah, and if you're starting in the fall term, you'll see those put on the first or second week of September. And if you're making your payment, let's say you want to pay your full year's fees, but you have a scholarship too, you can deduct it from your total payment. And even though you're not going to see it until you actually start school, you have your offer letter, which does have your scholarship amount confirmed on it. So it's not going to look like you're short paying, just you'll have it's on your offer letter, and that's your proof of scholarship there. So let's say your tuition was $25,000 and you want to pay for the full year, you have a $5,000 scholarship, it's perfectly fine just to pay the $20,000. And you'll have a balance owing that should be the amount of your scholarship that'll get reduced to zero once it's applied.
For sure. Yeah. And something to note with that, if you're maybe concerned about what the implications are related to your visa, we've done this process. Any institution that practices a similar process knows full well that international students will not see that as a problem, provided that they actually do submit their scholarship letter as a supporting document when they apply for their student visa. When you submit that, you can simply explain to your immigration officer that you have paid the fees related to your academic expenses or your tuition expenses. And then you've also already subtracted the scholarship that will be applied after a certain date. If there's any hiccups there, if there's any questions from your immigration advisor, they work very closely with Lakehead University on a regular basis. And so if you need any assistance, we're more than happy to help with that. Chris, is there anything you wanted to add for undergrad students at this point?
No, I mean, the scholarships, yeah, they just get applied at the start of the term. If you do have any questions about your scholarship amounts, I would just say to contact Student Central. But yeah, your offer letter is what you would use when calculating your payment.
Awesome. And then for our graduate students, I know that we already covered this very briefly, but I'll pass it over to Chris to sort of summarize it again.
So if you have funding from grad studies, like say from a professor or from a supervisor, or it could be external funding, what'll happen is the Graduate Studies Office will give you a form that'll list all the funding you're going to get, what term it's going to be applied to, and yeah. So what you would do is they would give you this funding letter, right? Let's say that you want to use let's say you have a grant to pay your tuition. What you would do is you would go on to our webpage. There's a online form you fill out, and you complete it with the amount of your grant, the name of the grant, and then you submit it, and it goes right to the accounts receivable office, and then we will make the adjustment on your account. It says there payroll deduction. So if you have a GA, a graduate assistantship job, it's a job at the university, right? And you get like bi-weekly paychecks. Every 2 weeks, you're going to get paid for your work, whether it's you're marking or you're doing work for your professor. You can use those payments. Instead of getting a paycheck to your bank account, it'll go onto your student account. So it's another form you have to fill out. We calculate how much it'll reduce your tuition by after taxes and all that. And your paycheck gets put directly on your student account. If there's any left over, it will go into your bank account. But you can use the entire GA or part of the GA or part of your funding. You can pay for one term and use funding for another term. There's a lot of different ways you can structure the payment of your tuition. All I would say is just once you get your funding form, you can come talk to someone in the accounts receivable office if you have any questions. They're really good about going through it with students.
Awesome, happy to hear that. The next thing we'll chat about is UHIP, and then following UHIP, we're going to dive into your statement of accounts and accessing that information. But I'll pass over to Chris to once again cover this. I know we briefly chatted about it during the living expenses portion, but I'll pass over to him for this.
Yeah, so I already said UHIP, it's emergency medical insurance, basically. It's required for all international students that are coming here to do an academic program. It's similar to OHIP. You might hear people mention OHIP. That's Ontario's health insurance plan. Some minor differences, but it's basically the same in what it covers. It's so that you don't have to pay out of pocket for medical bills. They can get quite expensive in Canada, despite the fact that they're covered. So if you need to see a doctor, like the example I always use is if you slip on some ice, because we're in Canada, and you would say break a leg, it'll cover everything from, if you need an ambulance to the hospital, to the doctor checking your leg out, to x-rays, any lab tests. It'll cover surgery. Anything that happens like within the hospital setting, it'll cover. If you're traveling with dependents, like you're coming here with a child or a spouse who doesn't have coverage, they're actually required to be covered as well. You need to be enrolled to be billed for UHIP. So you might be wondering, well, I haven't been billed for UHIP. I've heard anything about UHIP yet. It might be because you're not registered yet. So to have access to health insurance through the university, you have to be a registered student. And once you do register, within a few days, you should see the UHIP fee billed to your account. And as far as the billing goes, it says $756 for the full year. It breaks down to $63 a month. That's for a single person. If you're bringing a dependent, it's another additional $63 a month, up to 3. So if there's more than 3 of you, you would not pay more for each additional person. You basically just pay for the first 3, and then any dependent after that, there's no additional fee. It's what's called the family rate.
Awesome.
If you're traveling, it's best to send an email to UHIP@lakeheadu.ca. If you want your dependents added to your UHIP before arrival, we can definitely do that before you arrive. So you have the card with them listed on it. It's not imperative. If you want to do it when you arrive, that's fine. But all you need to do is send an email to UHIP@lakeheadu.ca, and we just need basic information, which I can reply with what's needed. So.
Awesome. Good to know. So we have a few questions related directly to UHIP. The first one is pretty straightforward. Is UHIP compulsory?
It is. It's compulsory. So if you're traveling here, if you're not a sponsored student, so if your government is sponsoring you, then you already have government insurance and you're not required to have UHIP, but every other situation you are. Even if you purchase your own before you leave, you're still required to have UHIP. That's why I would recommend not purchasing. You can purchase travel insurance for your trip here, but I would not purchase insurance for your studies. There are options you can do. And if you want additional insurance, like if you want extended, to include things like prescriptions or like physiotherapy, eyeglasses, things like that, you would buy into the student union's health insurance plan, which is a secondary plan. So it's a plan that's more similar to something that an employer would give you. But yeah, it's administered by the student union. But I highly recommend, if you're a graduate student, to opt into it, because you're not automatically considered for it. Undergrads, if you're full-time, you are automatically billed in. So
awesome. Good to know. Thank you for chatting about that. So next, we're going to chat about statement of accounts. I'll chat about this quickly, and then we have a lot of questions in the Q&A that keep rolling in. And I know that Hector is behind the scenes typing furiously to answer many of them, but there's a lot that we'll cover in just a moment here. So your statement of accounts, we've talked about this quite a few times throughout today's session, and in terms of where can I view my bill? I've registered for my courses. Maybe you've added all of your winter courses, or down the road, if you're joining us for fall, you've registered for your entire year of courses, and you want to know, how can I see how much I need to pay Lakehead University, or how much I owe them? You're going to log into your MyInfo account to start. So this is applicable for our winter 2022 intake students. You're logging into MyInfo. If you have access to the applicant tab, which most of you will, of course, if you've applied, that's the only tab you'll see. And then you'll go to the My Financial Profile section, and you'll see My Account Details. If you have access to the Student tab, which means you're eligible to register, given that we do have registration open for winter, you would most likely already see this as well. You would do the same thing, go to My Financial Profile and select My Account Details. This is a quick overview of what you would see. So on the applicant side, My Financial Profile, My Account Details, My Statement of Accounts. So once you've clicked on either one of those, it will actually bring you here. So this is your account here, and you can see that this student, for example, includes their student account or their ID. We've blurred it out, of course, and then their balance owing or remaining. So if you've already made a small payment, of course, that would be applied here directly. There may be a delay by a few business days for Lakehead University to process that payment, and then, of course, apply it to your account. And so if you send us money today, don't anticipate that your student account will reflect that in the same day. It may take us a few business days, unless, of course, like Chris mentioned, if you pay through TouchNet PayPath, the credit card, that is immediate and it will show on your account. Something else to note here is that if you're looking to view your My Statement account and you want to see sort of the breakdown of each of those costs, and if you also need a breakdown of that bill for each item, you can see an example here. This is outdated, to be completely honest. This was, if I'm not mistaken, potentially even my statement of account at the time. And so you can see the payments here that were applied to my account, but some of those other ancillary fees that I can see here, and just chatting briefly about them, include the Athletic Building Fund, the Student Athletic Society, LUSU Capital Fund. LUSU is the Lakehead University Student Union. capital improvement, computer enhancement. Those are some of the really important fees. And of course, like Chris mentioned, you can actually see the breakdown of the fees for each of the programs that we offer here at Lakehead University by going to the miscellaneous fees section on our website. Things to consider. So this is our last slide before we're going to dive into questions. These are things that I strongly recommend, and certainly our accounts office equally recommends these. We want you to regularly check your Lakehead University email. So of course, when you applied, you would have included your personal email, whether that was a Gmail, a Hotmail, a Live, a QQ account, whatever it might be. We also, at the same time that you applied, then set you up with a Lakehead University account and email. That is the email where we send proprietary information or really critical details. And so for our student accounts, or especially for our graduate students too, and the Faculty of Graduate Studies, this is the email they exclusively use. So we want you to check it on a regular basis to make sure that if there's any updates related to your application, to your student accounts, to your financial situation, whatever it might be, check that so that you're staying in tune. Also, making payments according to the deadline dates to avoid any late fees. That's something else that I would strongly stress and encourage you to be aware about. If you know there's an upcoming deadline or due date for a fee or an application, whatever it might be, you can chat with us to confirm whether or not we encourage you to follow that deadline. When it comes to actually paying fees, though, there's almost no flexibility in that. If you don't make that deadline payment date, if you've registered for your courses, you will be automatically billed for that late fee. With that being said, if you are registering for your courses after the deadline, so for all of us that were on today's webinar and heard that December 15th, 2021 was the deadline to pay your fees for winter, if you don't register for your courses until the end of December, or maybe even the beginning of January, that deadline is not applicable for you because you have not yet committed to actually registering and participating here at Lakehead University. However, we do have typically a few business day turnaround where then we anticipate to receive that payment. And so in that time frame, if you need any help, if you have any questions, of course, you can connect with us or reach out and we'll be happy to provide more details. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And then of course, visiting your MyInfo regularly for important messages. That's a given, I think, but that student portal is really important to stay in tune with what's going on with your application as well as your journey to Lakehead. For our students that are participating, I know that I can tell from the questions, there's a number of you that will be joining us this spring, summer, and potentially even next fall. We've talked about a lot related to MyInfo. MyInfo will actually be changing and switching over to a new student portal called My Portal. And so we'll have more information about that, and the processes may change slightly, but we're not trying to make it complicated. This is going to be a new system that will hopefully streamline a lot of your processes that are involved as a student at Lakehead University. And so we'll have more details on that to come. Now we're going to dive into questions. This is the exciting part where hopefully we can get through all of these and help everyone. So the first one that we'll do is the gym fee under ancillary? That's a really good one. So Chris, to clarify, for undergraduate and graduate students, is the gym membership fee already applied directly to their account?
Yes, so it's automatically included with your tuition fees. Good so it is listed under the ancillary fees.
Okay. Another one we have is if someone gets a loan to support his education, how to contact the university to accept the funds. So that's a good question. If you're getting a personal loan from a financial institution in your home country, you're most likely going to still be paying those fees directly from your own personal account because that money is simply put into your account or that loan's tied directly to you. Chris had already noted sort of if you're getting sponsored or if someone else is paying the fees on your behalf, then there's other processes to work through, but I'll pass over to Chris to add on to that if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, generally what would happen is if you're paying through, like your bank wants to send the payment directly, what you would do is you would go onto the Global Pay website and instead of paying through using your online, like putting your bank account info and sending it through Western Union, you can print, they call it a quote. So you can print a form that basically gives the amount of your payment, and it'll say the bank details that Western Union gives you to send to get the payment to Lakehead. So what it is, it's you print it off, or you can like save it as a PDF. You take it to your bank, give it to them, and then they'll have everything that's needed to send the payment to Lakehead, the SWIFT code, the bank, the address, and everything like that. So.
Awesome. So another question we have is from Bernice. It says, hi, I have a higher national diploma in procurement and supply chain management. Very interesting. From an institution in Ghana, and I want to know if I can apply to postgraduate studies. So for our students that are looking for just general information about applying to a program or your admission, the admission requirements, for our graduate programs, so those master's level courses or even PhD courses, the minimum that you will require is the equivalent of a 4-year undergraduate degree, the equivalent to a Lakehead University or a Canadian degree. Based on the fact that you've said that you've had a diploma, the equivalent to a diploma typically in Canada is something that we refer to as a college level. If you are at a college level, you would need to transfer into one of our undergraduate programs, potentially use some of your credits from your previous diploma, apply them towards an undergrad, and then after completing your undergrad, you'd be eligible for that master's level, and then after your master's, your PhD, if that's the journey. Bernice, I encourage you to connect directly with us at welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and you can chat with us more, and then we can certainly connect you with our rep for Africa, who is Patrick Carr. Another question we have here, just going through this, can we pay per month? I'll pass that one over to Chris.
No, so the only option to pay in installments is if you're a graduate student, you would pay the term fee prior to each term. So you could pay the annual fee in 3 installments. So that would be the fall term, which is due August 15th, the winter term, December 15th, and the spring summer term, which would be due May 1st. So you can pay that in 3 installments. Undergrads, if you're a full-time undergrad student, which most of you will be, you basically pay half. So you would pay the fall portion, or half the total would be due August 15th, and then the remainder by December 15th. So there's no option for students to select like monthly payments or bi-weekly or anything like that. So.
Good to know. And that actually ties in really nicely to our next question. It says, second year and onwards, how often do I have to pay installments? So just like Chris mentioned, for our undergraduate students, if you're full-time enrollment, you will then pay in 2 installments or potentially in full. It's totally up to you. And that first payment will be due mid-August, August 15th, and that will cover you for your fall semester. And then your winter fees are due in December 15th. And so we do break those payments up by 2 installments. You're more than welcome to pay the full installment in August if you're looking for that. And like Chris mentioned, also for our graduate students, you can certainly break that up for each term.
And if you want to check out our website, the fees page, you can actually look at what the installment amounts are. So you can select your programs, say computer science. It'll give you the first installment amount and the second installment amount.
Awesome.
But it's basically half. So, but it doesn't always work out to half. So.
A question for you, Chris. For payments by Global Pay, do students need to create an account, or can they do it directly via Google Link?
I don't believe you need an account. I do test payments all the time through Western Union, and I don't have an account. You don't. And if you want to go like back and look at a previous payment, what you would do is you can go onto the Global Pay website with your tracking number from your previous payments, and you could. Actually, you can monitor your payment, or you can look at a previous payment on the website. But I don't believe it's not like there's an account that you log into or anything like that. You can make as many payments as you need to, and then you'll just have the confirmations as your reference if you need to go look it up.
Awesome, good to know. Another question we have is it possible for me to pay the tuition fees in an installment, or do I have to pay in full for the full academic year now? This is for me joining winter 2022 semester. So that's a good question. Me and Chris talked about how if you're joining us this winter for 2022, you'll pay for the fees that are related directly to the courses that you register for. So say, for example, your intentions are to join as a full-time student this winter, and you register for 4 courses. You'll pay for those, that full 4 courses. However, if maybe you intend on coming full-time, but maybe you can only register for 2 courses, then you'll pay for just those 2 courses. The following year, when you are able to bump up your enrollment to full-time and do that 5 courses, maybe 5.5, maybe even 6, whatever it might be, that's where you'll then pay the full tuition amount, and then you can break it down into the installments. I hope I answered that correctly, Chris.
Yeah, it gets a little complicated, but basically you're billed based on the number of courses you take. So if you're in the fall, registering in the fall term, once you hit a certain number of courses, you just pay a flat rate as a full-time student. And it works out to 4 credits, which is about 8 half-credit courses. So say you took 4 in the fall, 4 in the winter, you're a full-time student. So
okay. We have a question from Nit. It says, if the course is 2 years, then we have to pay fees. Sorry, maybe I've read this wrong. If the course is for 2 years, then do we have to pay fees of first semester for the second year? When to pay? That's a bit of a tough one. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I think I'm going to do my best to answer it either way. So if you're registering for a 2-year course, maybe it's a Master's of Computer Science. That's a good example of a 2-year program. You'll pay for each term. So you're not required to pay for your 4th term, which is in your 2nd year at Lakehead University. That payment deadline will come up as that semester approaches. Of course, if you're looking to make the full year in advance payment, you still would not pay for that 4th semester. You are looking at those 3 terms and at the graduate level. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe we have any undergrads that are 2-year. That would be a surprise to me, but maybe I'm wrong.
yeah, and it's important to note that you're not paying for each year, you're paying for the courses you take in that term. So let's say you pay your first year's tuition, and then in your second year, you have to take some more first year courses. Those are still going to be billed to you in the second year, right? Because you're paying for specifically what you register for. You're not paying a flat fee for the year level. You're paying for whatever you take in that term. And for grad students, you don't pay per course. Grad students pay a term fee. You pay the same fee whether you take 1 course, 2 courses, or even no courses. You pay the term fee every term until you graduate.
Awesome. So another question we have is, can I pay my tuition from the research grant that I received in my 1st semester? So I'll pass that one over to you, Chris.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If it's on your funding form from grad studies, you can include it to be added to your tuition. I don't see why it wouldn't. If it's an external grant, that's not through the university and it goes directly to you, then that'll be just on you to make the payment.
Awesome. So this question says, when a student has to take insurance coverage after getting the visa before that and the university, would they help the process, or do we have to do it on our own? So like Chris mentioned, when you've had your visa process or your student visa approved and you're ready to join us here in Canada, and then you've registered for courses, the registering for courses is actually what triggers the applyment of the UHIP, so University Health Insurance Plan. So if you haven't quite registered for courses yet, you won't see that fee on there. And so there's nothing that we can do to trigger that manually, or as far as I know, maybe I've misspoken there, but there's nothing extra that you need to tell us or let us know. It's something that will automatically happen when you register for those courses.
Yeah, and we do try to get everybody enrolled prior to the term starting. So the students who started this fall, they would have received their UHIP card, I think, by the middle of August. So by August 15th. And for students starting in the winter, it'll be something similar. It'll be probably by like mid-December. You'll if you're registered, you'll see that you'll get an email from Sun Life with a copy of your UHIP card.
Awesome. This is directly related to the UHIP question that says, do I get any confirmation after paying the UHIP fee?
No. So, I mean, if you get a receipt for every payment you make, so if you make a payment of $756 Canadian dollars, we can get you a receipt for that. But the confirmation will be on your account statement. So if you need proof that you paid the UHIP, I would just say your whatever payment you make that'll be applied to your student account would be sufficient. We don't the way your payments are going to work is that you register for courses, you apply to residence, you're billed for UHIP. It's all on your one account statement, and any payment you make just goes towards the total. So we don't bill you separately for UHIP, or you don't have to pay separately for residents. It's all billed to one statement, and you can pay based on that. So that's the nice thing. You don't have to pay to a separate residence account. You don't have to make a separate payment for UHIP. Once you fully register and you see everything listed on your account statement, it'll give you a total at the top, and then that's what you can pay. So
awesome. Another UHIP question. It says, does UHIP cover dental plans? So we did chat about this briefly. University Health Insurance Plan does not cover dental. However, our Lakehead University Student Union does have extended coverage, which does cover a vast majority of dental procedures or dental coverage in general. Again, that's facilitated through the Lakehead University Student Union. So for specifics on what the coverage is, I encourage you to connect directly with them, and they'd be happy to chat about that. I know that you further clarified to Shreer that you have braces, and by the time you join Canada, you won't be finished your treatment. So dental coverage more typically refers to sort of the dental cleaning. Orthodontics, which is your braces, you'll have to confirm directly with Lucy whether or not that would be covered under the extended coverage. Again, to reiterate, our undergraduate students will automatically be enrolled in that extended health insurance plan. If you're a graduate student, so pursuing a master's or a PhD, we encourage you to opt in if you're looking for that additional top up of your benefits.
And just to be clear, if you're an undergrad student starting in the winter, you're not automatically billed for the LUSU dental or the bus fee either. I believe you do have to opt into it, because we only bill full-time students that are registered in 8 credits or more, those fees. So you wouldn't meet that criteria, but you can opt into it just by visiting the student union website, or you can, if you're on campus, you can go visit the office. It's lusu.ca. It's really easy to find.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying,
again,
Chris.
I can't stress enough how much you should get it. Even just to get like a single prescription could run hundreds of dollars, and the cost of the plan is I think it's between $300 and $400, I believe. It's well worth it. I highly suggest getting it.
Mm-hmm. And also it has that peace of mind built into it too. So if maybe you chip your tooth or you have a really big toothache, those procedures certainly can run very expensive, to say the least, here in Canada. And so the coverage there would really help you.
And even if you slip on that ice, like I said earlier, even though like your UHIP covers your hospital stay, any surgery, anything like that, it doesn't cover follow-up things like physiotherapy. So I strongly suggest if you're a grad student or you're undergrad joining this winter, that you opt into it. lusu.ca.
Perfect. Another question we have is, can a statement of accounts be used as a fee receipt? So the simple answer is absolutely. You're more than welcome to use that as a receipt. So once you've made that payment, you'll see the full cost or the fees that were applied to your account, as well as that payment will actually be a line item on there. And it will simply be the opposite. Instead of being charged for it, it will be subtracted from your statement of accounts. In some cases, you may require additional receipts that are more specific or more detailed. I mean, that's pretty detailed. It breaks down each line item. But if you do require that, we certainly encourage you to connect directly with our accounts receivable office. And any one of them are happy to help you. Another question. This one's for you, Chris. Is it possible to open a Canadian bank before actually arriving in Canada?
That I don't believe it is. I know usually at our orientation, we have a big orientation, and a lot of the banks actually come to the orientation and help students set up accounts right then and there. So it's not super difficult to do once you arrive in Canada, but I don't believe you can open one beforehand. I mean, if you have a specific bank you're interested in, it wouldn't hurt just to maybe, you can send them a message and just ask them like what the best, there might be some preliminary work you can do. But I believe you need to be in Canada to open it. I imagine they need like a signature or something, although I don't know with COVID if things have changed. So, but I mean, I would suggest to follow up with the specific bank if you have one in mind. Otherwise, it really doesn't take long once you're in Canada to open a bank account. So.
Of course, yeah. And then also once you're in Canada, you can actually determine, we have almost all of the major financial institutions here in Thunder Bay, as well as Aurelia, and accessing them, whether they're on campus or off campus, is very simple. With that being said, though, of course, you need to do a little bit of your own investigation and research and determine which bank is going to be the best fit for you. So whether the fees are an important part, maybe the rewards are important to you, maybe the additional top-up insurances that are included on the credit cards or the accounts that you're opening, all that sort of stuff is not something that we can necessarily help you with. We can certainly give you advice or guidance and clarify, oh, that bank is close to our Thunder Bay campus. However, we can't make that decision for you.
There is actually, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say is there's also many of our banks here in Canada offer incentives to open accounts with them. So if you're a brand new client to them, they may have a promo running where they could give you a small bonus, whether it's $100 to open an account with them. Maybe it's an iPad or a pair of AirPods. I always see these incentives as a Canadian, and it definitely makes me question whether or not I should switch over my accounts myself. But it's all based on sort of what you're looking for in terms of the services and supports that bank can offer to you. Pass it over to Chris.
Yeah, sorry, no, I was going to say there is actually a one bank on campus, the Royal Bank. They have a kiosk next to the Starbucks. So it's in the Agora there. So if you can actually, once you've arrived on campus, go visit them. I'm not promoting them over anybody else, but they're on campus. So if you do want to talk to someone and maybe you're not familiar with the city, you just want to open an account, you don't care what bank, I would suggest visiting them.
Awesome. So we have come to 10 o'clock. So I'm going to answer the last three questions as quickly as possible. The first one, when can we view this meeting on demand? So we'll do our best to get it edited and uploaded to our YouTube channel by the end of this week. With that being said, we have a lot of videos that we've been doing. We've been doing 3 sessions every single week. And so we may be a little delayed, but if you go to our YouTube channel, Lakehead International, you hit that subscribe button and you also turn on the bells for the notification. You'll be notified when we do new uploads on that channel, and you'll be notified, of course, when this one hits the on-demand environment. The next question I have, and this one will be for Chris, should I or can I pay UHIP for my partner who is coming with me on an open work permit?
Yeah, so if they're here on a work permit, they're eligible for OHIP after a certain period of time, which I believe is 6 months, is the required waiting period. So at the very least, you would be required to enroll them into UHIP for those 6 months. I know that if they receive it earlier, you can actually cancel, subsequent months, or if you need to add a month because you haven't gotten OHIP yet, or they haven't received their OHIP yet, you can actually add a month. It's not like a one-off deal. Like once you buy it in September, that's it for the year. You can add and you can remove months. All I'll say is that March 1st is the last day to cancel any UHIP on your policy. But yeah, so if you're arriving with someone and they have a work permit, chances are they're not going to have OHIP right away, and you would be required to purchase UHIP for them. Yeah.
Awesome. And the last question we have is, can I apply for a scholarship or a TA? I'm assuming you mean GA before receiving my university acceptance letter, or should I apply after I receive it? So for our graduate students, if you're looking for a graduate assistantship or maybe a faculty graduate research award, I encourage you in your statement of intent when you originally apply to Lakehead University to include those intentions that you are looking for a graduate assistantship or potentially a research award. If you've already applied, then I encourage you to connect with your supervisor or your graduate coordinator in your particular department to confirm whether or not there are opportunities available for you. With that being said, if you've received your LOA, your letter of acceptance already, we do clarify for our graduate students right then and there whether or not you will be included in the graduate assistantship program, which then can help you prepare for the financial expenses that are upcoming related to academics and living here in Canada. Thank you for checking out today's video. If you have any questions, you can always comment below. Stay connected and follow us on our social media channels to stay informed about upcoming webinars and get an insider sneak peek of Lakehead University. See you next time.